Oh, yeah.
All right.
What's
and
blocking?
we are live.
Oh.
Wow.
What's going on?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was unexpected.
I
Hey!
know.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
I figured like we might as well just drop everything.
Are we actually live?
No, yeah, we're actually like,
Oh, cool.
like they can legit
Jeez.
hear everything.
Why
we're
isn't
saying.
there?
that's
Could you
frightening.
imagine if the moon was made of cheese? What if it was made of spare ribs? Would
That's
you eat
so
it?
gonna explode.
All right, guys, welcome.
Are we live?
No, yeah, we're live. That's
What?
Well, that's why I said we were live.
That's why I said we were
And I'm
live.
sitting here doing my awful Harry Carey. I should
Right.
spike my hair up a little.
Dude, the other day your hair, I was like looking at it, I was like, you could like copy Conan O'Brien.
I probably could.
Yeah,
I dressed up as
like,
Jim
your hair
Carrey
was
once.
Incredible.
Oh.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. No, I can see that working. Yeah.
Because
Totally.
I'm weird.
Cool.
Hey,
well,
cool.
So, hi,
Cheers.
Guydeas, episode 3, and
Cheers.
today we're drinking Coors, which is so basic. Oh, Andrew. Oh, Andrew. Oh, dude.
We're live!
I'm so glad that was live, but I'm
It's
so
okay.
sad that.
Paper towel.
Yeah, 1 second.
Carpet is stained.
Sorry,
Welcome to Guydeas, where we spill beer.
we spilled a lot of Coors.
Because we're not prepared for anything.
Not even a little.
Yummy.
Flying by the seat of our pants. Here we go.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So, while we wait...
Guydeas' resolution is t-shirts that we don't want to wear tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah.
Hey, it's not my house.
Man.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, dude.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
dropped
Oh,
it.
man,
to
that's
be honest,
funny.
And
Yeah.
then it exploded, which
So are
I
we
said
ready?
it would, so I don't
to
know what
get
I
this going?
expected.
Yes. Yes.
What are we
Let's get
talking
this
about today,
going.
guys?
Andrew?
DIY projects.
Nice.
It's kind of like a handyman corner episode, I think, tonight. So, like, do we like doing things? Do we like doing projects? Do we like building things? Do we like working on our house? Do we like yard work? Do we not? Are there some things we like to do? Are there things we do well? Are there other things we don't do well? So,
DIY and handy do not go well in the same sentence.
What? Why?
Oh, man, Steven.
Thank God for Stephen Coker.
man,
Appreciate you, buddy.
You're welcome.
No, that was really good. I legitimately didn't get it like, at first, and then I was like,
That's why I'm here, not to
okay.
give input, but to point out
Well,
things.
obviously with that comment,
make jokes.
Yes.
yeah.
Jokester.
So, I guess, where do we go? Okay, DIY. Do it yourself. Anyone have any projects?
Yeah,
They
so
wanna
Andrew,
talk
that was
about-
your topic.
Yeah.
Start us off
Yep.
there.
You gotta
Like,
start
where did
us
this
off.
come from?
Well, so the last couple of weeks I've actually been doing, I guess, a project. So let's see, I have a bunch of stuff scattered among like 4 or 5 different places. And everybody's getting tired of holding my stuff. Yeah. And it's like, okay, so I need to figure out a solution. And I was looking at, okay, so storage units, they're out of the question because they're super expensive. It's like at least $100 a month for like a small unit. So I started looking at, let's buy like a cargo trailer, but they're also super expensive. And I found a couple good deals on like Craigslist and then like Facebook Marketplace, but by the time I called them, they already had like 4 or 5 different people interested in them, so that didn't work out. And so all the other like cargo trailers, they're like at least like $1,500 to $2,000. And I was like, okay, I need a cheaper solution. So I looked at everything. I was like, even looking at like horse trailers, but turns out those are super expensive also. So then, thanks to my mom, shout out to my mom, 'cause she's always scouring the internet looking for different random stuff. We found I'm pretty sure it's a Winnebago, but it's a 1970 like motorhome from Winnebago, and it was $700 on Craigslist. And we're like, that can hold some stuff.
Right.
It's super ugly, but we got it. We went over to this lady's house. We ended up buying it. Barely drove it back home. And so my dad and I, we've been working on like cleaning it out. And it's been nuts because like the first day we got in there, I was like slowly opening the drawers because I just didn't want like this enormous like mouse to jump out at me and surprise me or like a snake or whatever. I'm just like, please don't. I was just really glad we weren't living like in a horror movie because like if there would be a whole like rat infestation in that thing if it was.
Or like a hand that comes out and like
Or a hand
snatches your
like
face.
the worst possible thing. And it was awful. Oh man, we were kind of never mind. It was terrible to try to clean up. So like we had to first there's like just a ton of trash in this trailer. In the motor. So first job was just cleaning out the trash, and then it turned into a demolition job because like nothing really was salvageable. So I'm just like ripping out shelves, ripping out different cabinets, ripped out the shower. We were gonna rip out the stove, but we decided not to. We ripped out the refrigerator. So yeah, it's been kind of like the demolition side of things.
Yeah, most
take
people
your
do.
energy and
Yeah.
rage out on something
Right.
and just destroy it and just get after
Seriously.
it. It's a lot of fun.
Grab a
actually,
wrecking
so.
bar or sledgehammer.
Yeah, but
Have
it's
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you
wrecking
guys like
with you.
doing different things like that?
Depends on the thing. Like, there are some things that I know I'm good at, and I'm willing to do those.
Yeah.
It's sad because my dad is, like, the best carpenter. Like, he's incredibly gifted.
Yep.
But I did not really get those genes. I
Yeah.
mean, I got the careful nature, but I didn't really get the ability to build stuff. So, more so, he makes stuff inside the house. I take care of things outside the house. Like,
Gotcha.
I haven't really, had a house, so I haven't had much of a yard to work on, but that's what I've done for 6 years now, so I better be pretty good at it.
A yard,
There are a lot of things.
a yard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, yard work.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I can relate because
So to speak, grounds
my
work.
brother, he's like a freaking woodworking like prodigy. Like
it's disgusting.
it freaking sickens me.
Yeah,
The
it's
stuff
like,
he can make, he's incredible at it. And
Mhm.
he basically was like, I think he started just as a hobby. A lot of people do it, but he was just super good at it. And now he's got like every tool under the sun. He's, his goal is to have this giant workshop, and he's really good. He made this like super awesome, like an arm wall cabinet thing. And he does a lot of different things to his house. And I try to make like a simple. I mean, I can barely make a
birdhouse.
like a birdhouse. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to make a birdhouse. I actually have a story. So, when I was living in Kenya, we did a lot of construction projects there, but to make something out of metal was more cost effective than making something out of wood there.
really, just like sheet metal
for like
and aluminum
framing
and stuff.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
get like iron bars and like weld it together, and then you have like corrugated sheet metal and like those are the roofs. It was way cheaper than wood, and so they would. I think it was a stick welder, and so I was like, oh, I should try to learn how to weld, and I went into the shop and found a couple like spare pieces of iron bars.
Ruining stories. Ruining stories. I'm
So-
Drew.
I'm like, I'm just gonna weld like a
Because
simple.
you answered a phone call
Oh.
the first night.
I didn't answer it. It just went off.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Distractions.
Yes.
Personal attack.
So let's see. Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna weld. I need to learn how to weld. We had like a stick welder thing. I was like, this can't be that hard. And so I go to the shop. I was like, hey, Charles. He's the guy that was like kind of basically like the shop manager. I was like, you got any like spare chunks of metal I can like try to weld together? He's like, oh yeah, sure. Sets me up. We turned it on and I stick the mask on and I do my thing. Like all I'm trying to do is like make like the simplest like angle of all time just to connect these two pieces of metal. So I do my thing. I'm like, zzz, 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 like, okay, I think it's done. And I go and I like pick it up and it just like falls off. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not welding again. So basically, as far as any like projects, like do-it-yourself stuff, it's weird because I'm actually really good at painting, and I think because my dad like pretty much forced us to help him do painting projects all the time and like kind of just pick it up as we got older and painted here and there. But I actually hate painting, but I think it's because of all the prep work that really goes into it. You gotta lay down the tarps, do all the and if the paint's peeling, you
Oh,
gotta freaking
that's why.
scrape it. It's the
Oh,
worst.
jeez.
We're
Sure.
very prepared right now.
Sorry.
What the heck is going on, Drew?
Well, I
Sorry.
realized that one of these settings was like super weird, and I'm like, why is that looking so
Please
weird?
tell me we can just start over.
Talking about do it yourself. We
Do
could
it
even
yourself podcast.
Podcasting. Because we watched Joe Rogan. It looks so easy.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
Well, it was like
If you respond to us, that would be really cool.
right. That would be kind of cool, huh?
So wait,
I would
so
do that.
Steven, you were telling me earlier before we started recording, you're more of, you'd rather like hire people to do projects.
I would rather. I can't.
You can't.
But I would. That's what
Why
I would
would you-
rather
why
do.
That's
would
where I'm
you
at
rather?
too. Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Because I work all day and I want to go do something.
Oh, okay.
I'm more of a go do something kind of person, and not necessarily hobbies around the house.
Right.
And when I do hobbies around the house, I destroy the house.
Oh.
So I had to put up pictures, and I mean, you want to talk about the worst way of... I put nails under the pictures to hold up the picture, because...
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Because they didn't
Why?
have the string that you attach it to. It was like decorations. So I had to like
But you,
hide nails in the decorations.
you really have to make sure that's level if you do that.
I
Like-
mean, it was level, but I mean, there was a lot of holes in my wall when I took down the
Oh my God.
stuff. So no, I'm
Get the
not.
spackle. There's
See-
a lot of spackle there.
I'm kind of with you, but there are certain things that like I find valuable to know how to do. Right? Like I think there's like
Yeah,
definitely
pick up the phone.
essentials. Pick up the phone.
And call somebody who knows what they're doing.
Make friends with contractors, yeah.
Right.
I know a lot of contractors.
Right. I mean, so like, yeah, because like at some point there are certain things like okay, like if my dishwasher breaks,
Right.
like so my dad and I are the opposite here. I guess I should frame it this way. My dad is like an ultra handyman. Like he fixes stuff that should be obliterated. He's like, oh no, all you gotta do this, and then just hit the flux capacitor with 20 pounds of nuclear fusion, and then it works. Like you're like, how do you know this? And so he's always like fixing stuff, and I think as a result, I kind of got used to not having to. And then he always would tell me, he'd be like, son, don't. I'm
Did you try to like learn from him though, or did you just like go away and he would do the project?
No, yeah, basically that. Like,
okay.
there were certain things I wanted to learn. It's like, I wanted to learn how to do things when it was like something that would have been enjoyable to learn how to do.
So what's that?
So like for instance, my freshman year, he and I built a coffee table together out of wine crates.
Okay.
Because I was like, this is sick. I want to know how to do it, and he like showed me how to like build it, and he helped me like plan it, and we built it. We nailed it together, sanded it, stained it, all that. And I was like, yeah, man, stuff.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd probably never do it again. You know what I mean? I'd probably go buy one or like pay someone else to do it, because I think one of the things that he was always really good at fixing things, but he also would complain about having to fix it. So I think I kind of learned to value like focusing on something I can do for money, and then just be able to pay someone else whose job is that. Which sometimes sucks, because I'm like, man, it'd be nice to know. Like I wish I was a little more handy.
Yeah.
But also I just like personally don't really care to spend that much time on it. Whereas I get handy like with camera gear, like rigging all this stuff up and finding all the stuff that you put together, which you guys are going, wow, it took you like 3 hours to set up tonight, so that's not true. But
Wouldn't call you.
We were supposed to.
Right.
I think it's like there's some things though that I think everybody should at least try to learn to do.
right, like what things?
Okay, so like painting. You should be able to like paint your house.
Right.
Even though it kind of
Can do.
sucks, but like you should know how to paint.
No,
Can do.
disagree.
You should you should be able to do like basic yard work. You should be able to
Agreed.
take care of your lawn and like water
Disagree.
the lawn.
Next, you're gonna tell me that I should be able to like change the oil in my car.
You should be able to change the oil in your car.
That's
and
not
I
hard, though.
disagree.
Change your tire.
You should be able to change your tire, and that is the most I can ask.
Yeah, you gotta do like the basic emergency stuff on your
Change
car.
your oil
Okay,
too.
spark
No.
plugs. You should be able to do spark plugs.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Spark plugs is
Wait, you're saying
makes
spark plugs is fine, but not changing the oil?
Yes.
What?
Or
How is that
just the tire.
Okay, so the one argument for oil, like not having to know how to change your oil, is at least the last time I did the math, because I'm down to do stuff if it saves money, and the time that I spend saving that money is worth the money I saved, if that makes sense,
Yes.
No, I
With
totally.
oil, it's
understand.
like the same price. If I bought all those stuff
I'm with you on
myself,
that.
or like paid someone else to do it, it's like,
No, I
not
get
that
you because
different.
I'm like, I say we should know how to do the oil, change the oil, but I take it into where you're, Valvoline or whatever. because it's like it takes me like 3 hours, where it takes these dudes like 20 minutes.
Does anyone else get screwed when they go to Valvoline? They're like, you need this and this.
Yeah,
and this
but
and
no,
this
you
and
just
this.
you say no.
Yeah.
Who's Valvoline?
They told me the other day
It's like the
I
OTs
needed
for the
like
city market.
Oh, I don't know.
like
I go to a
1,000
real
different things
place.
were wrong with my car. I'm pretty sure my car is running pretty well. So yeah, you just tell them no.
I swear, I'm convinced that those places will literally like get like a jar of grease and dump it on your air filter. Like, this is what your air filter looks like. And you're like, I changed it yesterday, dude.
There was one
It's
time
so
where
bad.
they took it out. They showed it to me. It was pretty white. I was like, "What the heck?" Like, I don't. It's clear. Like, a freaking toddler could tell you that you don't need to change this air filter. Why are you asking me about this?
Right.
And I was like, "No."
Well, the
So-
answer's obvious, Andrew.
What?
Money.
Oh.
The unicorn in the.
I told them
radio.
no.
Money.
Oh, okay.
Then they probably.
Is it the unicorn in the muffler? There's a unicorn in your muffler, and we gotta take that one. Is it Dane
that what
Cook?
they told you?
Is it Dane Cook?
never heard
That's
that
what
one.
he's like.
Wow, I haven't heard Dane
Yeah.
Cook. In
I just
a long
when you
time.
said
Dude,
that.
yeah,
how
what's Dane Cook? Tell me more about your VHS
What
tape.
year is it?
I'm old.
Dane Cook, Dane Cook
2004
came in and like he like sweeped the whole market. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, Dane Cook is the best!"
There's like
oh
a
my God."
two-year window. Of
Right.
Yeah,
and then
like
he
2001 to
He
2003.
did like
I'm pretty sure
3
it's like-
5 movies.
2005 to
Okay,
2008.
a
You
few
had
of
the
them are
funny
funny.
one where he
Yeah.
was like employee of the month, right?
That
Yes,
one,
that
yes,
one was
that
great.
one was
Waiting.
good.
That was pretty funny.
No, that one was good.
Waiting.
But then he just
He wasn't in
disappeared.
Waiting.
He wasn't
Oh
waiting.
my god, he was! He was one of the cooks!
Yes.
You're right.
That's pretty
Okay.
funny. Waiting's funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he
It's
just
funnier if you were a wait if
I'm
you've done
curious.
wait staff.
Get back to the okay.
No,
So
no, we gotta find out.
We're not going to leave the topic of Dane Cook.
What happened?
This is
to
sacred
Dane
Oh,
ground.
you don't know? He
Oh my
had
God.
to. His brother was skimming off
We
of him.
will get back to that.
Oh, here we go. The real reason Hollywood
So-
dumped Dane Cook.
So his brother
Oh,
like
look at this
really
picture.
screwed him
Wait.
over.
Wait,
there he
hold on.
is.
Hold on, this
That's
is
not what he looks
Wait,
like.
do you
He's
guys
kind of
think he was
overweight.
like too good looking for a stand-up comedian?
No.
No, I don't think that's a
I
thing.
think there's that thing too.
What? You can't be attracted to a man on stage?
No, there's not that. No, not
We've
that.
established that Steven's celebrity crush.
No, there's a
Is
theory.
He's not even my celebrity crush.
There's a theory out there that like stand-up comedians are usually not like Hollywood A level like male
Attractiveness?
actors attractiveness.
No, but he wasn't Hollywood A.
He was trying.
actor.
He was
But
big.
he was too good looking to be a comedian, right?
I mean,
I don't know that that's a thing. I think that there's some comedians out there that are
No,
pretty
that's
good
totally-
looking, you know.
I'm not saying I made it. It's not my. It's made up
I mean,
on the internet.
That non-Johnny
Made up
dude
internet
like
thing.
got shredded.
Which guy?
Camille non-Johnny or
yeah, I
whatever.
don't like him,
I have
but
no idea
he
who
was
that
a comedian at one point.
But he got like
yeah,
shredded.
well, that's because he's in a Marvel movie.
Well, yeah, but
Doesn't count.
Man, that
Steroids.
article was absolute trash. I was like, oh, we're gonna find out some value.
No, so what happened, from my understanding, is his brother was embezzling money from him, and so his brother's
Bummer.
in prison.
okay.
But
Oh.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he had to deal with all that stuff, and that's kind of I think that's why he fell off because his brother was screwing him over,
That sucks.
and I think that and then added the pressure of
sucks.
Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Because he got really out of shape, and I think he was Joe Rogan. He was on, and he was
Oh,
talking,
really?
and
He
he
was on
was.
Joe
I
Rogan?
think it was. Like, it was kind of a weird interview to have him on,
He
and
doesn't need a plug.
no, but like he was
Well,
just
does
kind
now.
of
His
telling
career's
why
tanked, dude.
Joe
everything
Rogan.
went to crap for him.
I feel
Okay.
like that's one of those sad Joe Rogan shows where you're like, he's just there to be like,
What
oh.
about?
I think
so
I don't know
sucks.
where I watched it, but
Okay,
he
we
was-
got
get
really
back
so
off
back
topic.
to DIY.
Yes, Dane Cook.
So, sorry.
That's
Okay,
what the
so-
D stands for. Is
I want to
Dane.
add to the list. Well, I was gonna say like building a fence. That seems pretty important.
I hate that because that's what I'm doing literally right now.
But it's a
I hate
You had to
it.
choose the thing that he was
I'm
just
literally.
like.
That's
I know.
what I was
Yes,
doing
chose it.
today.
I knew you were building a fence. That's why I put it.
Low blow.
That's what I did today.
Low blow,
That's
Andrew.
It's vinyl and it sucks.
A vinyl. So like a privacy fence, or is it
Yeah.
a split rail, or what?
Privacy fence.
Okay.
It's stupid, especially like digging the holes and. I did talk
pretty
about
sweet,
this.
man.
No, it sucks.
What? You're not gonna have any maintenance on that.
Unless you hit it with the weed whacker,
The
which I
weed
have done.
heck?
That's why I didn't put any grass.
to get a
I am not
crash course
putting
in
any
yard work.
grass next to the
Oh
fence
my
because I
gosh.
broke a few fences with the weed whacker.
You need to
You
get
should not be able to break a fence with a weed whacker.
Ryan
Yes.
needs to teach you how to use a weed
Have you seen a golf
Yes.
ball go through a vinyl fence?
whacker.
No.
Yeah, because they're not that strong.
Well,
The
sure, but...
golf ball. Right through. Had to fix
Wait,
that.
can we hear that sound effect again?
Had to
Yeah,
fix
yeah,
that
wait,
again.
Yes.
wait,
Can
wait.
we-
Wait,
can
let
we-
me
yes,
mute,
can we-
mute
can we-
everyone else's mics. Hold on.
Get-
All right, wait.
Wait.
It happened
Steven.
twice.
Steven.
It did.
All right, golf ball.
Something like that. I don't know. Now, I can't put too much pressure on me.
That's funny.
And you were gonna be an actor.
Yeah.
What
awful.
else? What other
Like Dane
things?
Cook
Wait, can
style
we talk
actor.
about that? Wait.
No, we are not talking about that.
We can have a complete
Did you know Dan
podcast
Cook?
on the stories.
I did not meet Dane Cook.
Aw.
Sad.
I don't know if I met anyone
Nice,
famous.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, I feel like we have to have an episode about that.
Okay, we can talk. Oh, one story a night.
One story.
One story.
Steven's
You know what'll
corner.
happen though? Is then we'll get
Steven's
like, I only
thespian
watched the
stories.
one Steven Hollywood story, and then I click away.
Oh, we could call it the Chronicles of Steven's time in L.A. Short-lived.
Yes.
Can the stories be also short-lived?
Oh, they were fun.
brutal.
Yeah, bro. Like,
So, anyways, back to this fence.
The beer
So, yeah,
topic.
so I think the conversation is less about specific tasks, right? And more about the value
Yeah.
of like to what degree should we be self-reliant versus to what degree should we depend on the skills of others. And I'm like mostly depend on the skills.
I was gonna say, I can't do
I'm
shit.
the other
So,
side.
I'm completely
I
happy
think,
with
though, like you gotta find somebody who can teach you. I think there's value in learning these skills,
Right.
and I'm not saying I'm not good at it like at all. I'm still learning a lot of this
Right.
stuff, but I think it's important to know.
But if there's somebody else out there that's looking for work,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna
why
deprive
not
that
pay
okay.
them?
I think because I will say
Me
The
neither.
one-
That's why I'm building a fence.
the one reason that I think it would be valuable, especially, isn't in any sort of like, oh, this is gonna sound crazy, in like some sort of societal breakdown or whatever. Like, okay, so like, if the world falls apart, I'm screwed. I have a bunch of camera equipment, and then the internet turns off. Like, what
Yes.
value do I have to provide? Whereas
Right.
someone who can farm or someone who can build a house and repair a vinyl fence that was hit by, well, not a golf
Well, if the
ball,
world's
because-
over, there ain't no
Yeah.
vinyl fences.
Right, right. But like, I mean, like someone who can like hodgepodge stuff together. I think that being crafty is kind of like an important thing. I guess
Vinyl fences will rule the world.
I mean, so what do you? I guess
We'll
what do
be
you
able to
consider
assert your
DIY
kingdom.
in that sense? Like, hunting would that count? So I hunt.
That's not.
So
No.
well, I'm just saying, but like with the way you were taking it.
well,
At the end of the world, how are you gonna survive if you can't do it? Well, I'm gonna shoot something. I don't know.
Drew was taking. Yeah,
I'm gonna roast it over a fire. I can do that.
that's different. Drew
You're
was
gonna
taking it
roast
to the
over
fence
my
over
fence.
fire.
yeah. I'm kind of
We're
thinking.
not
Like,
thinking about hunter gatherers.
no. I'm thinking more like if. Or like, okay, so like even if the economy tanks, right? Like let's say that, okay, we have the coronavirus going on, we have all this craziness going on, and people are like, oh,
Did
the
you just say
economy-
the C
He
word?
said the C
Oh
word.
no, demonetized. If
That's
something,
not
Bleep
real.
it out.
Yeah, I think so.
They stopped doing that though. Now there's 100 people talking about it and like, yeah, we can't catch them all. So watch, but we'll be the ones to get shut
Gotta
down
catch
for it.
'em all, Pokemon.
Catch 'em.
And like in economic downturn, right? I have to admit that my position, and some of us who have the same position, of like, oh, I'll just pay someone else to do it, utterly falls when you don't have the money to pay someone else to do it, right?
Well,
So,
I'm
like,
gonna marry a burly woman. But no,
Wait, can we make that a quote for Steven, please?
Can we make a
Please,
t-shirt?
can that be?
Let's make a t-shirt with that quote on it with Steven's face.
You quoted me that I identify with moths. Can we please quote Steven for that? I'm gonna marry
forgot
a
about the
burly
moth
woman.
We have
Please.
2 t-shirt ideas.
t-shirt.
I identify with
And no
moths.
one to sell them to.
There will be at least 4 sales.
Yes, I would own both of those
Oh,
t-shirts.
Yes, that's hilarious.
I would wear them
No,
every
you know
day.
what? Okay, so some things I think
This is
you
the
do
most-
need to hire somebody like an electrician.
yeah,
You should probably hire an electrician.
Mike has
really
been off
know
for a
what you're
while.
talking
Have you ever been shocked?
That's great.
Sucks.
What happened?
They probably still picked it up. My mic was off, but it's
Oh.
okay. There's 2 other mics. So
Yeah,
it's
it
not
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't
Should
even
definitely
touch
hire an
the.
electrician.
until they've got the panels all set up, I will not touch the panels. Because being
Dude,
shocked
okay, yeah,
sucks.
that stuff is scary. Like, I feel like in a pinch, world goes to crap, I can figure out how to maybe, like, hammer some nails into wood and make something stable. I'm not touching electricity.
No.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Easily, I would die.
Like, not at all. Even if you're like the only person in your like little post-apocalyptic village who could, like, tangibly do that. No.
Well, then you have to
wouldn't
rise to
like
the occasion.
provide
Okay, Ryan, make
the
me the
obvious
butthead.
option. Yeah, you wouldn't provide the obvious option of electricity to your small community
Nope.
of like.
You know what? I think the problem with humanity is that we innovated too much. I think we should go be Amish. So, no, I'm just kidding.
I love the Amish. They're awesome.
You like their cabinets.
Their
You're
cabinets
the
are
only one that has
fantastic.
experience.
I do.
For those of
I
us-
love
True.
the Amish.
Yeah, you know,
For those
you know
of
what's
you
up.
watching who don't know why that makes sense, Steven has to drive to Pennsylvania like once a month
From
to
Colorado.
pick up a butt ton of Amish-made cabinets, and they are fantastic. I photographed them.
Yeah.
They look
Yeah.
amazing. They look
They're
really,
nice.
really
I've never
good.
seen
I don't do that.
Oh, here, you want to see them?
Yeah, I need to see these.
Let me
They're
pull them up.
fantastic.
No,
okay.
no, let me pull them up.
So
No,
okay,
we're-
so you want to know what
Yeah,
my
keep doing your thing, I'll pull 'em up.
DIY is?
Yeah.
So we can get back on topic. So I'm gonna build my gym. So I'm not necessarily gonna build the equipment, but I'm gonna I'm gonna put the floors together. I'm gonna put once the equipment, if I ever get it, everything's sold out. I'm gonna put my gym together. That's for me. That's
Oh.
a DIY
Yeah.
project, and I have to do my yard so my dogs can move in and destroy my house and my parents'
And
house.
destroy the new yard, too.
Yeah, and destroy the new yard.
So what are you doing for the gym?
So
Okay.
I'm gonna do half my garage with the horse mat,
What's that?
Okay, wait.
Oh, like a stable
horse
thing?
mat, stable mats.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stable mats.
and then
I have the cabinets up when we're ready to look at
Oh,
them.
okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that, and then
So it'll be on this tiny screen here, but they're also going to go live. Hold on, let me turn that off.
Oh, nice.
Amish
I was gonna say.
See these here?
Too bad
Wow.
the Amish can't. see.
Okay, you
Aren't
know
those incredible?
Those
Those
are really nice looking.
those are really nice.
That's a
Oh.
nice cabinet.
Yeah. And those
Brought
are
to you by
not
the
mass-produced cabinets.
No.
Those are Amish-made, awesome
I think I
cabinets.
found a beard
Are they
here in one when I
customized?
photographed it.
Huh?
Customized?
well, I mean,
Awesome
they're
Amish.
Or,
just built by them.
but I mean, like,
They do little things.
is it like they mass produce like 4 different designs? of
Well,
it?
no, they've got different ideas, different
Okay.
things you can
gonna
choose
say,
from. They don't really mass produce.
I was gonna say I don't think they.
There's only
mass-produce.
there's only
They
like,
don't do
there's
anything
only like
mass.
6 of them.
Dude, they churn butter for a singular household. Granted, that household probably has like twice as many kids as any of us will have, but they like
Challenge accepted. Okay.
Jeez. Ryan, I'm supposed to be the Catholic side.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
What are you doing?
yeah.
That's fine.
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay,
with
go back to your
condoms
gym.
or not.
You're doing
Like,
the floor.
You're,
You got your stable.
Yeah, so
that
I
might
think
be a
they're-
topic some night.
Ooh,
How many
That's a
kids
risk
to have?
actually,
No, like contraception. We're not talking about it tonight.
no,
Move
like
on, move
future
on.
topic.
Yeah.
Future
We're
topic.
not going there tonight.
Super
No.
derailed.
Steven just looks so confused. You must have missed that side
I
conversation. we were
really
having.
did.
See, this is the tough thing about this podcast is people had to listen to all 4 of us talking just now, and they're probably
Yes.
like, "Wait, what's happening?"
What's a condom?
Okay, now we have 3 shirts that have to be made.
So my gym that I was building in my garage.
I love that we have to so intentionally bring it back to this topic.
Oh my
Keep
God.
going.
Because none of us really build anything.
Okay,
Do we?
one of us
does.
really builds anything.
I've built a few things.
I was gonna say, I don't think
So, okay.
I don't think Andrew is aware that the rest of us suck at.
Okay,
doing
so
stuff.
in my defense, so
I don't think you guys are aware how much I do suck at it. I've built a few things, but I'm
Okay.
not very good at it.
so in my defense,
I wish I was better.
me and my dad built. So my brother and my dad are very good at this kind of stuff. I did not get that, but we bought a '78 Corvette, and me and my dad did the suspension on the Corvette.
That's awesome.
And once we got past that, we went, well, we don't know what we're doing, so we sent it away to somebody else to do it, because that was the extent of both of
Get
our
back.
knowledge. Yeah, it's in the shop. So. But but we did the suspension on that. That was pretty cool to do. Just to do it with my dad, that was the cool part,
Yeah.
honestly. But no, I'm not honestly, I don't like to do projects because I spend most of my time at the gym or doing like going boxing or stuff like that. That's what I would rather go do than to build something. Ryan's head.
What are we doing?
I know. Totally am.
Yeah, so that's that's the extent. Like, I'll do yard work. Like, I'm doing my yard right now. Like, they're putting the sprinklers in for me, and then I am going in over doing all the...
You can't do sprinklers? Just that's literally all I did today was work with sprinklers.
Well, I mean, I can do it. I just
It's
don't
not fun.
want to because
It's
again,
you
this is
gotta be on
why
the wrong
I
end
don't
of a
do
shovel.
projects outside of work. It's because that's what I do all day. So I have no desire to go do. And I used to do sports fields, so I used to have to do the sprinklers. I used to have to make the fields all nice and pretty, and then I'd have to mow. And then you go home. You really don't want to do all the stuff you've been doing all day.
You don't want to paint an entire football
But I
field.
think like
No, that's
except for like
tiring.
painting the football field, but like
Yeah.
the sprinkler stuff that's a good skill to have, even though it's
Well, and I
sometimes-
know how to do it.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Not
have
like-
them. I wanted them. I didn't have the time to do it myself,
Yeah.
so I had them.
Beer run?
The reason.
Beer?
So
Beer?
Beer?
I've got that thing.
Oh, he's
Bro,
got...
dude, this is Guydeas.
You can't have that.
You're gonna
on
drink
Guydeas.
that on Guydeas?
Did you not hear me say about an attractive man?
Okay, you want to be?
You guys thought I was going to get demonetized for saying coronavirus. Yes, I would
Do you
like
just
it.
want a chorus or do you want something else?
Your dark beers are in there somewhere, but I'll take a Coors.
But so I know how to do it, but I didn't have the time to
Right.
do it after work, so I had them do the sprinklers and kind of lay everything out. And so what I'm gonna do is actually go back and I'll do all the plastic tarp over.
Oh, okay.
I'll run the drip system, and then we'll get grass next week. I'll lay the grass.
Perfect.
So yeah, and then I'm gonna do the rock, and then I'm working on the fence tomorrow. So it's like
So you're
I'm doing
you're
all,
the majority
and
of it.
So when I first moved out here, actually my job was landscaping.
Oh, okay.
So I've done it. I know how to do it. I'm slow at it, and especially when it's just me or me and my brother, we're so busy with other stuff that it's hard to get it done. And this is kind of one of those things where it needs to get done now, because my parents don't want my dogs in their house.
Gosh. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah. So and I'm kind of and
You're doing the majority of the work. It seems.
I'm
like.
doing a lot of it. It's just it's. Do I really want to go work more? Like, my mentality with life is, do I really want to go work more after work? No, I don't.
No.
But right now I'm not doing anything because there's really nothing to do. Like, the gym's just open, and I'm not really ready to go back to the gym because I just assume everybody's there now. So it's like, that's why I'm building a gym. So I don't have to go back to the gym.
I thought it was so I could come over.
Well, that too. But I'm doing that, and then, but like, because there is nothing going on now, it's easier to do stuff. But when life actually gets back to normal, it's going to be like, I'm going to be way too busy to do side projects. Like, and I want a life.
Yeah.
To be honest, like,
Yeah,
that's
for
my
sure.
thing. I don't want to bring work home.
Is there anything like any sort of like a category of project that you guys actually do enjoy doing on your own that you wouldn't hire for somebody?
I'm just watching Ryan over there stacking beers. Is there projects that I enjoy doing?
So is there
that-
something like you do like to do enough that you wouldn't hire somebody to do it? So no.
Trying to think.
I would even hire someone to put my TV up. I'm
What
just
about
kidding.
you,
I'd call
Brian?
my brother to help me because
What about you?
Is there anything that I would
So
not hire somebody?
well, I guess what is your stance? Would you rather hire somebody to do a project, or would you rather do it yourself?
If it's something that I can immediately do and I have the time to do it, I would do it.
Okay.
I don't know what there is that I know how to do, I guess is the better question.
That's a
Like,
good point. I don't know how to do anything. So the answer to your question, no.
But do you guys like
there's
to try to
nothing that-
figure it out? Like, okay, so for example, so my brother and myself and our dad, mainly my dad and my brother, because I wasn't around that much. they were remodeling our parents' basement. And so, like, they did a lot of it. And so, like, my brother, he never did tile before. Guess what? He figured out how to tile the shower, and it looked fine. Like, it didn't look terrible. It didn't look completely professional, like 100% professional, but it didn't look awful. It was good enough. So, like, do you guys kind of go and, like, okay, I'll watch a couple YouTube videos and kind of figure it out as we go along, and if I make some horrible mistake, we can kind of start over, or...
Usually my question is, hey Dad, can you do that? And then like he'll walk me through it. Because for the most part, yes, my dad can do pretty much everything.
Okay.
Like it's ridiculous the amount of knowledge
So the
that
key
guy
is to be
has.
a dad.
Yep, pretty much.
Become a dad.
Yeah,
it
as
changes, right?
Yes, as soon as
you
you
immediately get flooded
Yeah.
with information.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're like, I know how to do everything now.
What? I don't know. Like, there's
'Cause, like,
probably stuff.
I'm like you, like
Not off the
I
top of my
kind
head.
of need like somebody to kind of walk me through it, maybe once or twice, and kind of do it together a few times, and then I'll be able to do it. And I like learning about that kind of stuff. I'd like to be able to do that. I just don't really know how to do a lot of things. So it's almost like I want to be in like this weird like apprenticeship where I'm like learning how to take care of your house or whatever.
Right. Well, I think another tough thing too is like there's a laziness in our age because there's no, for me at least, I can Google anything and figure out how to do it in like 2 seconds, So I think
But that's good though. You can
No, it is
use your
good.
resources.
I think it almost discourages me from doing it though, because I'm like, I don't have to do that now. I'll just Google it later. I don't have to actually know how to do it. I can just know that I can perform the actions that the guy on YouTube tells me to perform and then get it done. So I think there's something cool about it because if I wanted to learn, I could, even if like my dad didn't know and couldn't teach me. But at the same time, at least for me, that almost makes me like less inclined to actually remember because I know I can just look up that video again.
The Google syndrome. You
Right.
Have to store
I had to repair a hole in my grandma's like drywall last summer, I think. And I never did it before, but
Excuse me.
it wasn't that hard. There's several ways to do it.
Yeah.
I think I took the easy way out. I went and got like one of the drywall kits
Oh, okay.
from like Home Depot or whatever. Like you just go and you do it, and then you gotta paint over it eventually. I didn't do that part yet because we didn't have the paint. It looks fine. It doesn't look amazing, but it looks fine. So
I don't like. So what I do. So I don't know how to put this vinyl fence together. Like how to actually get it straight and all that. To a point, but I did. Me and my dad built a fence for his greenhouse, and I mean it was a wood fence. But I took what I learned from the vinyl fence and built this fence with him. And I mean, I did decent for what it was, but I mean, it was, I'm able to take certain things from projects and be able to use them. So, like, I know more than I think I do. I just, like, if
You're
you
not
ask me,
confident-
I'm not confident in it, and if you ask me to do it,
Right.
like, I won't know until you ask me specifically what it is. Like, so sitting here going, I have no idea. Until you actually have a specific topic or thing, I won't have a clue.
oh yeah.
And most of the time, like I should know how to do floors, and I've done a few wood floors, and I've framed. But with my job, there's a lot of hesitation on my part because I don't want to ruin anything.
Gotcha.
So I'm more worried about messing something up, especially when it's something important. So that's where I hold back learning, taking it further, is because it's not my house that I'm ruining, and that's where I kind of hesitate, is when it's somebody else's stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where my biggest, I'd say, weakness is being scared to screw up, because we can't fix it. Like, it's not like but it's like every time they ask, it's like, this isn't the right time to do it.
I don't know. You can't fix death. Like, you gotta be careful.
Well, I'm not gonna kill nobody.
that's what I do think.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I was
that almost happened.
I was working for this guy for a couple weeks, and he does like a lot of flooring and like tiles mainly. And he had me cutting. He like showed me a few, like he did a few cuts like on the tile saw.
Mike's hard.
And so,
We are a little over a half hour here, so I don't know if we want to switch.
we jump to
We're
our
at 41 minutes.
finish the story. I'm in the middle of the
No,
let
finish
him
your
finish
story,
and then
finish your
jump to whatever the other topic is.
He had me working for him for a little while, and I'd never really worked with tile before, and he's like, all right, well, we need a bunch of cuts, and so you go cut everything, and then I'll be putting it in. I was like, all right. And so I'm like, he came over, he shows me how to do it, and he's just like, shunk, and it's like this perfect cut. Like, it's like the tile doesn't like chip off anywhere. I'm like, all right, it looks pretty simple enough. Like, I've worked, I've done chop saws, I've done skill saws, like, I can do this. So I go and I'm just like breaking all these tile chunks in half. I'm just like, I'm like, what the? Like, I'm just costing this guy money. I felt so bad because I'm like, finally, like, I've got this piece for you, and he's like, I'll make it work. I'm like, cool, man. And like, meanwhile, there's this other pile of just like trash. I'm just like, that's got to be at least like $50, $60, $100, whatever. I felt really bad, but yeah. So anyway, I think it's it's fun to learn, and obviously, most of us, it sounds like, probably want to learn more, but we kind of want to like do it alongside of somebody else and have somebody show us the ropes, and sometimes that's hard to do. So
I think that's really important. I think that's going to be something that our generation already struggles with, but like when we're teaching our kids, they're like, Dad, how do you do this? I'm like, I don't know, Timmy. Let's look at YouTube and see what this guy says, That's
as long as it doesn't get to the point where like our kids, like if any of us ever have kids where they're like, I don't know what a screwdriver is. Hopefully it never gets to that point.
Which one's the screwdriver? Is it the
Oh no.
It has an X at the tip.
All right. So tonight's theological topic, Ryan, that was your idea. So what's the topic tonight?
Yes, how do we deal with conflict in the Christian community? Like, what have been some experiences that we've had dealing with conflict? How has that gone well? How has that gone poorly?
So how do we deal with conflict in the church? Is that a good? Okay, I'm gonna put that up on the.
Yeah, that's a good.
Oh, it's on the right side.
So-
That's so sad. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me play that again for the viewers. How do we deal with
talking about, like,
conflict in the church?
Then somebody who's in the church body or somebody outside of
just mean in general
Somebody-
or church?
Well,
I think he means church.
I mean,
right?
specifically
I think he means
in the church more so. Like, the reason this came up is, like, the idea, do you have a problem with leadership or the way decisions are being made? Like, how do you go about interacting with those individuals to, like, try to help them see, like, maybe what you're doing isn't consistent with what Scripture would have us do or with what Jesus actually cares about? Like, so what does that look like? Like, how have you guys seen instances in any way, like, where conflict has come up? Because it doesn't necessarily have to be with leadership, and I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be with the church, but how do you guys... Okay, first of all, what do you think of conflict?
Fight Club.
Don't talk about it.
Oh man, I almost want to go the other way around. I think it's harder to address conflict as a broad thing in human relationships, but within the church, I think there's some pretty decent parameters that we have.
I think most
Okay,
people,
how about
people
this?
try to avoid conflict, I think.
Well, how about this? How, as a Christian, do you handle conflict?
I think it's hard because it seems like, for me, a lot of people try to avoid conflict because of the culture that we live in now. It's almost like if there's any sort of conflict, if you don't agree with somebody, you've automatically offended that person. And I don't like how that is. You should be able to disagree with somebody and still be able to have a civil, like, normal adult conversation and still be able to walk away from that conversation potentially disagreeing but still having a friendship or some sort of a relationship that's not like butting heads.
Sure.
And so I think because we've gotten to this point in life where it's like you're either for us or you're against us and there's nothing in between, I think it's super weird. I think it's super confusing, and it's an odd time that we live in right now.
I think, no, I agree with you. I think there's definitely... I think there's a sensitivity to people nowadays. I think we've, to a detrimental degree, built our identities around certain beliefs, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Like as Christians, we definitely do that. Like, oh, like our whole life is that we love Jesus, you know? But I think there's like an unhealthy attachment when we don't have humility in that, where if someone attacks that, they're necessarily attacking you, you know? And even Christians can do this. Like, it's not just like secular people do this and Christians are fine.
No, Christians are pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I think, to be quite honest.
I think
It's like understanding when to deal with the conflict versus, like, because we could just be blunt and go straight for it, or there maybe is a better way of handling it instead of. But at the same time, maybe the path to it is the conflict, like the bluntness.
The obstacle.
It's hard to gauge because some situations need that blunt, straightforward. But then there's other situations where maybe that's not the way to handle it. But it's like, okay, so what do you do? Because if you see something wrong, are you supposed to speak up, or are you supposed to, or are you supposed to?
So it's tough, right? I think this is one of those things. There's an endless problem with humanity where we want to make it black or white, like just cut and dry. And I think instead of that, the best times of our humanity are when we kind of have these two tensions, and we don't see them as paradoxes, but we see them as the boundaries of where we're supposed to dwell. You know, like all too often we're like, is it grace or is it works? Is it this or is it that? Is it this or is it that? And it's like, I think it's like these are the boundaries that pull the trampoline together, right? So that we can bounce higher. And so like with conflict,
like that.
I think it's truth and it's love, right? I don't think those are diametrically or exclusive. They're not opposed. They're not diametrically opposed. They're not mutually exclusive. But I think a lot of times the conversation gets hijacked because people are like, oh, we're supposed to be loving. And what they mean by that is we're not supposed to say something that hurts somebody's feelings because then they're upset.
Yeah.
But then the opposite is also true, where some people are like, no, man, it's all about the truth, and I'm going to hit you in the face with the truth, and the truth is going to set you free because I'm going to hit you with it so hard that you didn't know you wasn't free. You know, like we just get like really aggressive with what is truth, you know, truth with air quotes or not. Whereas I think there's like this delicate balance of being like, okay, this person, or maybe me, or maybe everybody involved is in the wrong somehow. Like something we think or something we're doing is incorrect or unhelpful or unjust. And when we're confronted with that, it's necessarily painful to be confronted with that. Like, no one who's in the wrong, like, reality is what happens when you think something and you're wrong and it hits you in the face, right? And it hurts. It's what happens when you think you can ride your longboard over those speed bumps, and then you hit the speed bumps and you fall on your face, right? You go, oh, I was wrong, and there was consequences for that, so it hurts. But I think there's like a delicate balance in understanding that, okay, something happening here is not in the truth, whether it's like a fact or whether it's the way that they're walking is not the true way to live life, you know, according to Jesus. And I think there is a duty to like...
Duty.
Ryan.
Sorry.
I think we have a responsibility to point that out, but I think that we have to do it with the awareness that when we're like putting... It takes a lot of like guts to act on something you believe, right? And so when you're acting on it with fervor and then you find out it's wrong, that's a really humiliating thing. So I think that's where like the love part comes in. Like if someone is in conflict with, and I'm thinking almost like from a mediator perspective, right? Like say two people are fighting, you know, well objectively they're probably both wrong about some things. And when you're going to say, hey, it's justified that you feel this way, but you might not be considering this or that, you know that that's going to be like a dagger to their pride. And so I think there's like a...
Well, it could be.
It could be, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be. I think
sure.
It's one of those strange things that I'm finding is that so much of our culture is entrenched in this idea that my value is in my ability to appreciate or discern truth. Mm-hmm. Like... I can find what truth is, what the best course of action is. Therefore, I have value. It's like, no, our identity goes deeper than that. So the confrontation of our ability to appraise truth doesn't necessarily have to disrupt us to our very core.
Right.
You find that people tend to get offended. Like, this is one of the things, because I bring this up because our king, Jesus, our rabbi, was incredibly confrontational.
Oh, he was a jerk sometimes, dude.
Yeah, like
he was like legitimately.
Yeah, like he did not care about.
Jesus was not PC.
What? I thought
No.
he was love.
Certainly, well,
And
yes.
only love. Conflict.
Yeah, conflict.
I'm calling
no.
you out.
Yeah.
Love.
Okay.
Okay, so I really like where you're going.
Love.
I want to give it back to you, but I want to point out the reason that what you're saying is. I know that you're saying it tongue in cheek because you don't agree with it. Yeah.
Sarcastic.
Oh man, this is so good. In Genesis, and you're like, what kind of sidetrack is this? It says that he creates man, and it's not good for him to be alone. He creates Eve as a helper. Do you know where I'm going with this? Yeah. So the Hebrew word there for helper is not only the same word that it uses later for God as our helper, but it's also framed in such a way that it makes Eve Adam's opposer. And not in the sense that she's like, oh, I'm in the ring with you, we're duking it out. But like, Adam is a tree that is bending over, and she is opposing bending the opposite way so that they both can stand together. But the basis of that isn't like, ooh, kumbaya, sing nice songs and say nice things about each other. The basis of that is that there's a differentiation of opinion that kind of balances the imperfections of the other, the lack of the other.
I mean, I like that idea, but Stevens shook his head.
Oh, I had a bad joke.
Oh.
It's like a lady to get in the way of my failures.
Oh, we lost a viewer. What do you say?
That's hilarious.
It's okay. It was only one.
Just one.
It's probably my wife and her sister downstairs. How did that went?
Yeah, they're like, no.
Yeah, we only have one viewer, so
yeah.
we have zero.
Now we're down to zero.
Hi, Sergio.
No, I think on YouTube it's if you have a viewer, you actually
Serge.
have a viewer. It's Twitch where if you have one, it means there's no one there.
No.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah. No, okay, so I guess the problem I'm having with this conversation is what's the conflict?
What's the conflict?
Like, so does it depend on the conflict?
I think so. It's kind of case by case.
Because, like,
right?
what if the conflict is your thinking of what is right and wrong of something, not
Right.
necessarily
If it's a question
right
of,
or wrong?
If it's a question of personal preference and what you strive for to maintain some modicum of comfort, then that's a problem. Like, that shouldn't be something. The question that and this sounds like kind of Christianese and cheesy, but
It's okay, no one's watching. So
well, yeah. Are you fighting for culture or kingdom? Like, what are you really fighting for? Are you fighting for a state of comfort in culture, or are you fighting for a state of something that is meaningful in the kingdom of God? Like, I really think that when we confront somebody, we should have a basis to go back to, that this is what God actually says. Like, this is what we need to be. We shouldn't just say, well, this is my opinion. Frankly, no one cares at all about our opinions. Everybody has, I know, right? Yeah, it's shocking. It's startling. It's
What about
so
Dane
sad.
Cook's opinions?
Well, I mean, his opinions are gold. But no, we need to actually have something to lean back on that's bigger than ourselves. If we're gonna take the initiative to confront somebody, we need to actually have something to corroborate. And partially, I think that's effective, especially in a Christian community, because all of us agree that Jesus is our king, right? Nobody's gonna contest that, right?
in here. Yes.
In here?
Yeah, in here.
I contest that.
No, with
Yes,
the four of us,
that is
nobody's
true.
going to contest
Yeah.
that Jesus is our king.
Right.
That we should be contributing to the kingdom, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to contest that. So we should have this common ground that we pull from called the Word of God. This thing that he speaks to us that gives us precedence to interact with each other, that says, this is my game plan for the world that you are in. God speaking to us. So we should be able to pull back to that so that there is some common ground of accessibility with the confrontation. Not just like, hey, you're wrong because you're wrong and I think so, and figure it out, because there's going to be a lot that sucks.
It's
Number 4.
Yeah, and I think it's tough. It's such a broad topic, honestly.
It's a little too broad.
It's a little too broad. I think there's almost like a couple types of conflict, right? There's
How you're running the church, how you're what you're preaching in the church.
right. Oh well, that way there's millions of
There's a
conflicts,
conflict.
right?
Yeah,
right.
Well, and that comes to, okay, is it a conflict or do you think it's a conflict? And you're going to go tell your pastor, oh, you shouldn't talk about that, or you should do this or that. And they just go, okay, see ya.
So yeah, and I think to kind of frame
Nice to see you.
that dynamic, there's a guy at my church, and he and I were talking probably a couple months back now about another one of these cut and dry conversations that our culture doesn't add nuance to about truth. Because I think conflict is usually about truth, and it's about either are we believing the truth or are we walking in the truth, and it's one of the two things. And I think most of us think that we're doing both of those things, right? And that's why we do what we do. Like, no one's like, I think I'm utterly in the lie and everything I do is wrong. I'm going to keep doing it, you know? Like, I think humans have a great way of convincing themselves that they're believing what's true and doing what's true. But, so I think most conflict kind of comes down to that. And when I say doing what's true, I mean, like, kind of doing what's just. Like, leading the type of life that's the most beneficial and believing the things that are actually true about reality. And I think that's where the disconnect is with this conversation in some ways is we have to believe that there's objective, true reality, right? And yet we have to admit that we're too stupid to understand it in its fullness. So kind of back to the boundaries conversation, like I think some people are like, there's objective truth and I know what it is. And they like think that they know everything and like are willing to bash people with that, you know? And then there's people who do the opposite extreme and they're like, I don't know, it's just kind of like cultural and nothing's really true. Like your truth is your truth. Speak your truth, you know? And I think both of those are kind of short-sighted, but I think they're both approaching something that's true to our situation, that there's an objective reality. If you hit the speed bumps wrong and they hit you in the face and it hurts and you're like, oh, that's real, you know? But at the same time, I think there's a limitedness in our ability to comprehend it. I think that's what makes conflict difficult, because I think we can be very hard-headed and be like, well, this is what I think and I'm right because this is how I experienced it. And we like to universalize the particular experience we've had. I think we do it the opposite way too. I think we like to particularize the things that should be universal. Like, I should be able to do this, but they shouldn't, you know? But at the same time, the things that should be just particular to our experience, we like to project those on everybody. And I think that's what makes conflict tough. Because you have to weed through, is this person being rational or are they being more emotional than is helpful to the situation, which is still fair and valid. Like, our emotions are there, we have to honor those, but they definitely can inhibit our objectivity, right? Like, if two people are fighting, usually one of them is, or both of them usually are like, I'm completely, right, like usually they're both like, oh, I'm completely 100% a saint and that person is Satan incarnate, you know? As opposed to being like, you know what, we're both kind of being dicks and we should tone it back and approach this a different way and realize the flaw in both of our thinking and come to a mutual understanding.
Okay. So with that in mind, if we're interacting with somebody, and we'll just keep the sin realm of the church right now, that we think is going about life, the decisions they're making are quote unquote wrong or less than effective within the reality, how do we go about speaking to them to try and change their strategy?
Get a big Bible and hit them with it.
Yes. Chuck it at them. Like, get 10 so that you have a couple backups.
I feel like that's tough because before, I guess that comes to judgment too. Before I can tell you the wrongdoings that you're doing, I have to first look at the wrongdoings I'm doing. Like, I can't tell you everything you're doing wrong while I just don't care about what I'm doing wrong. So it's like there is that, how do you handle that? It's well, first I have to look at my life and see what I'm doing wrong.
Right.
Before I can come and tell you what you're doing wrong. Because otherwise...
I love that passage.
Yeah, so it's like...
The speck in your eye and the log in yours. Yeah.
I love it because I think a lot of times we're like, speck in his eye. Like, he's got a problem too. I think what's really powerful about that passage is if your eye has something in it that's so large that it's blocking your vision, how can you accurately see what sin your brother is committing?
That's a good point.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I feel like a lot of people take that and go, we're not allowed to judge. It's like, that is not it at all. It's before we can say anything, we have to examine ourselves. We have to understand what we're doing wrong as well before we're allowed to point out what you're doing wrong. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people have gotten to the point where as Christians, we're not allowed to judge people in what they do. It's like, no, that's not true at all. Because if you're not allowed to judge, then we are not allowed to call out what is wrong.
Right.
And we're called to also call out what is wrong. So before we could do that, but we have to figure out what we're doing wrong. And I think that's kind of the point of being Christian too, is you have to be able to humble yourself in your own faults before you can help somebody else with their problems.
Because otherwise you might help them.
Yeah.
And you're really hurting them more than you're helping them. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
No, I really do like that. That reminds me of something I heard a little while ago, that G.K. Chesterton was among a couple different people who were asked, like, what's the problem with the world? Like, why is there so much evil and frustration? Why is there so much debauchery that's going on right now?
Debauchery.
But it was a journalist who was going about, like, asking a couple influential individuals at the time, what is the problem with the world? And his response was just, I am. Like, he didn't say anything else. That was it. Just, I am the problem with the world.
Interesting.
And it's intriguing because I really appreciate that you point that out. And it wasn't something that I was thinking about. There's, I forget which psalm it is, but David's frustrated and railing at God and angry with everything that's going on about him. He's frustrated with his enemies who are coming against him. And then there's this wonderful little sentiment, search me and know my heart and reveal any grievous way within me. It's like this sudden turn. Like he's so frustrated with the circumstances around him, and then it's just, search me, know my heart.
So,
It's got to begin with us. Like it's got to begin with me. And that's really helpful that you point that out, because we have so many people who are so fixated on fixing this problem, that we don't focus on like the huge thing that's right here.
I think that's good. Well, I think that's the tough part too of this matter within the church. So my question is always, whose responsibility is it to make those determinations in the church, right? I feel like a lot of times we like to do the whole every man a pope sort of thing. We're like, well, this pastor said this and he's wrong, and this person believes this about the Bible, so they're wrong. And we are willing to trust our own individual self as it approaches our faith, and not approach it with the humility of being like, you know what? Like, there's a lot of stuff out there that I definitely have blind spots to, especially with this stuff, like with wisdom of approaching particular conflicts, and with wisdom of approaching broader like church conflicts and things like that. I think it's easy to be quick to jump the gun and take up your own gavel and make your judgment final. Like, is that your final answer, Jeopardy? Yep, this is it. Bring the gavel down, drop the guillotine. I think there's wisdom in thoroughness with these sort of things, and that's something that I think our culture, this is dicey. I think our culture loves to drop the band hammer quick. You know what I mean? Like someone says or does something and it's instantly like they're out of there, they're fired, career ruined, before they've even necessarily had a chance to respond, you know. It's like a guilty till proven innocent sort of mentality, and I think there's wisdom in the opposite of being like, you know what? Well, this got really heated. Whatever it was, whether it's an argument between me and another person, or two people coming to me that are having a conflict or a weird situation, or it's maybe even less emotional than that. Maybe it's like this is kind of happening in our community. What do we do about it? I think there's some wisdom in not being like, we have to jump on it and act quick. It's like, obviously we want to handle it promptly so that it doesn't continue. But I think there's wisdom too in being like, okay, let's just take a breath and let's like look into this and pray about this and really sit with it. And then we can be like Solomon, you know, then we can do the thing that will reveal what's actually happening here.
No, I totally agree with that, because I think we live, you know, with the internet, people on Twitter, whatever, like Facebook, you say something, people disagree, they jump on you like immediately. There's this like weird
Hyenas, bro.
knee-jerk reaction. Yeah, hyenas. You're guilty until it should be you're innocent until proven guilty. And like even in like news, like in the media, like people, journalists, so-called journalists, they just run these stories and they're like, oh well, we're gonna like make up some stuff and we're not gonna really do any real fact checking, and yep, this guy definitely did it. And then like a few days later or a couple weeks later or whatever, it comes out, yeah, this guy actually didn't do anything. It was completely made up, and the poor guy like just had his whole reputation ruined. There's no way he can get his career back or whatever. And so yeah, I think we need to get back to this, you know, you're innocent until proven guilty, and the whole 24-hour news cycle thing doesn't help with that at all.
Well, I don't know. So on that, I don't even think it's innocent until proven guilty. I think we should be allowed to make mistakes.
Totally, we should totally be allowed to make mistakes.
Everyone messes up at some point. It's like, but we've gotten to the point where you're not allowed to mess up in life. And it's like we need to go back to the. You can have a moment of weakness.
Well, and I agree actually, and that brings up the idea of what I think is the most important thing with confrontation, and it's something that I think as Christians we should have an upper hand at, but sadly, most of the time we don't. It's grace. Mm-hmm. You know, when we're confronting somebody. No, sadly, that's kind of true. Like,
it's totally true.
Yeah.
Because are you like talking about probably like these people who are, you know, kind of front and center, kind of celebrity-ish, and like they're getting in trouble for things they said when they're like 19, and it's like 40, 30, 40
general,
years
like
ago.
you can't today, because of the way the media is, not even the media, social media, you're not allowed to have a mistake.
Yeah.
You could have said something out of context and you're ruined. You're not allowed to be human anymore.
Right.
You have to be a robot. You have to say the right things. You're not allowed to mess up. And we used to be, there is a, I'm trying to think of, like, you had so much leeway.
You just have some grace.
Well, yeah, grace. Yeah. You had leeway. You had like, okay, you messed up this time, that's okay. But like if it's continually, that's when you started to say something. But if it's like, there used to be a give to life. Like you could mess up. You could, in the heat of the moment, you said the wrong thing, or you said something you did not mean. It was just stupid, or you did something stupid. Not, you know, depending on what it is, but like you're not allowed that anymore. You're not, anything can be taken a certain way and then it's over and it's ruined.
I agree.
Like you're not allowed to be human.
I think how do I want to say this? I think there's a fine line though between
Well, it depends on what it is.
Right.
Like,
well,
there's
like,
certain things.
Like,
yes.
So I think it depends on a couple things. Like, okay, if some like dude that's like a secretary at like a law company says something that is construed as maybe ignorant on Twitter, should he be fired and defamed? Like, okay, what's that? Like, here's the secretary, you know. But if someone is like the leader of a church, right? That's a little bit different, right? If that person comes out and like, oh, he's the leader of a church and he still has like a very severe addiction to pornography, like, okay, well that's a little different. Like you should have been upfront about that going in and gotten help, right? You know. But at the same time, though, I agree that it does go too far when it's like if you make one mistake that's public, and that's the difference. It's like the new Victorianism, right? Like, so back in the Victorian area, everybody was sleeping with everybody, but if you got caught, is it? And I think it's kind of the same thing here. Everyone's like, yeah, we don't care about being moral. We just want to do what we want to do. But if you get caught,
It's a different story.
Right. And so I think a couple things. I think on the one hand, I agree that like people are broken and they make mistakes. I think when it immediately happens, like especially for like a pastor or like someone in a position of leadership, there's wisdom in being like, hey, let's take a step back here. Like maybe you should step down and we'll get you some help. I think that's the thing that doesn't happen. It's not like this. It's always this person did this awful thing. Go to hell. You know.
They like totally distance.
It's a condemnation.
Distance themselves from the situation there, and they're like, "Hey, we can like come alongside you. Let's get you."
There's very little emphasis on restoration.
Yes. It's great. And it's funny because our culture is so like, oh, restoration justice. But when you do this, we're gonna like tie a chain around your neck and drop you into an ocean. You know.
Yeah. Seriously.
I think the other thing too is I like to believe that grace doesn't just allow or cover our wrongdoings, but when truly received empowers us to no longer repeat them. And I think that's an important aspect too, because it can be easy like, oh, well, why don't we just show them grace? Which means why don't we just let them off the hook? It's like, well, it's not good enough to just let someone off the hook if they've messed up. It's true repentance of like, God is the type of God who will see you and know you, understand why you did that thing, have mercy on you, and yet empower you to not repeat the same mistake.
I really like that you bring that up, but I think that's a completely other topic that we could explore just in itself. Like
totally.
For next week.
Hey, it could be. It really could be.
Next week on Guydeas, we're talking about Steven's Hollywood acting career and that. Steven just doesn't show up.
I like telling
just like
stories.
his Hollywood acting career.
Just like my career. Never showed up.
It's crazy entertaining.
Does anyone, not to cut it short, but we're kind of running long, does anyone have final thoughts about this topic?
More grace, more restoration.
Yeah, actually,
seems like it.
In a very similar vein, I think if we're not going into a confrontation with the idea of restoration, then we've got the wrong motivation for it. We're not entering into that situation in a way where we actually care about the person. We're fixated on being right rather than being effective.
I wonder if people like to be right. Like, wait, I mean, I like to be right also, but like, like that's the focus though now, right? Is that what you're trying to say? Like,
yes.
People like to be right way too much.
Yeah, actually, and to kind of just put that into a little soundbite.
That's
we would
right,
rather
so I win.
Yes, we would much rather be right than effective.
Yeah, which probably isn't great.
No.
You don't have to be right to be righteous. Yeah, cool. Any other...
Steven?
No, I got it.
Steven, you got this?
Bruh.
I was going to say, be selfish. Point out people's flaws. Keep going. Keep it up. It is fun to watch.
Be ruthless. It makes for good television.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fire me next.
Fire me. That would be your parents.
You're fired.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching this episode of Guydeas. As always, we live stream this on YouTube every Wednesday. We like to say we do it around 7, but we were an hour and a half late this time.
Wednesday.
We haven't even done it on Wednesdays, you're right. Yeah.
There was a Saturday.
No,
One day
you're
we'll
right.
have a schedule, but for now on, maybe here or there once a week sometime.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
we will strive for consistency of Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
That's why no one watches. We're not consistent.
Yeah, you're right.
That's why. That's why.
That's why. Okay.
Well, we also have only done.
That's it.
We've also only done 3 episodes, so I don't know that it's safe to say that
Not
we,
consistent.
We're gathering momentum.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, anyways, we're all here. It's the 4 of us. Subscribe to our channel, and I'll try to start making the live streams like to where you can get the notification before it actually goes live, so we can give you that heads up. And if you have topic ideas, please let us know in the comments what your topic ideas are, and we'll talk about them. So we want you guys to help shape this, and thanks for watching. And from all of us here at Guydeas, have a good night.
Yes.
Let's play pretend.